Welcome back. This is SA Tonight on ENCA. Thank you for joining us. Now, DA leader John Steenhuisen has announced Christopher Pappas as the party's premier candidate for KwaZulu-Natal ahead of the 2024 general elections. Pappas is currently mayor of the Umgeni local municipality and previously served as the party's deputy leader within the province. But the big question is, will he be able to help the party to snatch KwaZulu-Natal from the ANC? Joining me now to discuss this further is political analyst Prof. Siko CFA joins me this evening. And Prof, thank you so much for your time. A very warm good evening to you. Christopher Pappas, is he the man to actually lead the Democratic Alliance into victory in next year's elections? What made him the appealing candidate for the DA?
Well, he's appealing for a number of reasons. First, he's young and we're a youthful country, and what it does, it sends a message that maybe young people must be given an opportunity. And if young people look at him, that could be one of the appeals. And if that is an appeal, then there is a big constituency there. But this is also a young man who has served in a number of capacities, establishing a very good track record. Early on, he was the associate president of University of Pretoria, effectively meaning that even within the rough and tumble of student politics, he was able to emerge victoriously. Secondly, in terms of government, he served as a councillor and later served in legislature. So you see somebody who has gone through the ranks, and he became a mayor. And when you look at his track record, you're talking about somebody who has stood or gave also meaning to what the DA calls when we govern, we do better. So if young people were to look at how other parties perform in terms of their position in power, and they compare with him, they'll be able to say, at least we can bet on this particular horse because this horse can run. So that is actually very positive. And most importantly, given that this is also a province of KwaZulu-Natal, his proficiency in the English, in the Zulu language also helps. He speaks quite a number of languages, but the fact that he can speak more Zulu more fluently than some of us is something that will be endearing. But again, we have also seen as somebody who is able to engage and relate to the people, and where there are challenges, they're actually being able to jump in. So from the notion of attributes that you want from a leader, you can find little fault with him. The only problem is whether the party that he leads or the party that is part of will not disappoint him in terms of its a notion of racial politics. Because the challenge that the DA has is that it still has to convince South Africans that it is a party for all people. Because we've seen black leaders coming in there, and when they leave with tails between their legs. Right. Because of the treatment that they've seen. But if one were to look at Chris Pappas himself, you could say in the language of the ANC tradition that he has been tried and tested as a youth leader, as a councillor, as a member of the legislature, and also as the mayor.
It seems the message coming from John Steenhuisen and Chris Pappas, at least in today's official announcement that he has been, placed forward as the KZN premier candidate for the DA, is that the DA wants an outright majority in KwaZulu-Natal, Prof. They want that 51% or 50 plus 1% outright majority. Is this a possibility, or is it still a bit far-fetched? Because we know that as far as, political rule is concerned, the ANC is still very much leading in the province alongside the IFP. Does it mean the DA will need to work alongside the IFP to oust the ANC? What political maneuvering will the DA with Pappas as their premier candidate have to work through to get their ideal results?
Well, every party that goes into election goes for outright victory. But if one considers the reality on the ground, the ANC is still a party that holds forth in KZN. And the only way that it is possible for the ANC to be ousted, it is through coalitions between the IFP and the DA, and even possibly the EFF. One must also understand that at the moment, there are many parties that will make claims that they will not work with any. But the possibility that the ANC can be removed from power is something that will be tantalizing and very politically seductive for many parties. And they may even agree simply to send a message that the ANC does not own South Africans, and that can be the only motivating element that will come in. But when it comes to the people of this country are not interested in ideology. They are more interested in whether you will be able to provide the services, whether you'll be able to rise to the occasion, whether when you make promises you'll meet those, you'll be able to match those promises with achieving the objectives that you set. What we have seen is that many parties have actually failed, and that's why the DA continues to go with the message that when we govern, we do better, and they'll be able to show the results. Other parties have been unable to do so. And if you are to look at many municipalities that are not functional, that are dysfunctional, and that have been said so by the Auditor General, you do not find the DA being the culprit. Instead, you find the real party of this country to be the one that is found wanting.
Prof, I want to, get your perspective on some race politics here for a moment, because I think it was John Steenhuisen or Chris Pappas himself who mentioned this. I said to be corrected, but either one of them said that the current policies of the ANC and that of the government are divisive, racially divisive. They called some of their politics, or at least their policies, and we know that in KwaZulu-Natal alone, I mean, the province has been ruled by black leaders, for the past 30 years at least. Is KwaZulu-Natal ready for a white leader?
Well, I don't think KwaZulu-Natal is at the moment ready for a white leader. But, we may be actually surprised. As I say, depending on how well the DA performs and how well the other opposition parties perform, they might actually say, for the sake of moving and turning a new leaf, it may be possible for us to simply say this young person may be the right person, even because also what people should be able to judge is not so much only the party position and its relation with the other races, but it will be also whether this individual is actually different. Could young people be able to be a curtain raiser to a possibility of different politics, to a different standards of what we need for somebody who's called a leader, and whether that leader is going to be able to lead it. It makes no sense for one to support a black person who's going to fail just because a person happens to be black. I think we need to have far better requirements for what we call leadership. And the issue is will the young people that Chris Pappas will appeal to be the ones who might show those of us who are older that there is also a possibility to think beyond the color. But at the moment, the DA's posture and history has not assisted in terms of black people saying we can throw our weight. But the fact that it has made inroads in the black community is something that cannot be doubted. I mean, many years ago, I attended one of their rallies in Soweto, where I was an analyst, and I was surprised at the sea of blue in Soweto, which showed that the DA had made some inroads. So the question is, will young people be able to do what they did in Soweto, where they would say, this party has the possibility of going beyond the issue of race. But at the moment, it does not look so good.
Your point also reminds me of another that I read from political analyst Colin, who was saying that even with the 30 years of leadership in KwaZulu-Natal by black leaders, the majority of black people in KwaZulu-Natal haven't necessarily benefited from this leadership. So perhaps it's about the quality of the leaders and not necessarily the skin color of the leader there, Prof. But I want to also touch on the challenges that are faced by KwaZulu-Natal that you foresee Chris Pappas having to take note of and perhaps even prioritize as a candidate premier out in the province. In your view, what are some of the challenges that are either systematic or even societal that are embedded in KwaZulu-Natal that politically or even otherwise Chris Pappas needs to maneuver through and prioritize as he suppose gears ahead of the elections, general elections next year?
Well, KwaZulu-Natal is fraught with racial challenges and ethnic challenges. One must also remember what happened in 2021 July unrest, where black people were killed. And you also saw the Indians or people of the Indian community coming and being accused to have been very cruel in the killings of black people. So the issue of the ethnic divisions that are in that province are some of the issues that you must address. The second issue that you must address is the issue of the economy. At the moment, if you think about the agriculture, it is very important that province is tending to the breadbasket of South Africa. And what it means is that there must be diversification in terms of the whole notion of farming. You cannot always rely largely on sugarcane. You have the important port, the Chef Bay, which can also be a generator of a great economic activity. At the moment, people would argue that it is not performing optimally. You also have the notion of ensuring that young people have a sense of hope. The unemployment in this country is huge, and in places like KZN, where you do not have the major industries. So one of the things that he may need to do, or anybody who takes over there must do, is to be able to create a number of economic hubs so that young people do not graduate to unemployment. But those are the basics. But what is also important is you also need a leader who's able to give hope a chance, and who's going to have a vision of hope. And this is what this country needs. But not hope for the sake of hope, because in this country, black people have hoped for so long, and that hope has not delivered anything. So the notion of the audacious hope is one thing that people would not. So for him, it is, you could argue that where I had been given a responsibility, the results show that I don't just promise, I actually deliver, and I work with the people. And as I say, what he has always shown is a sense of empathy, being able to reach out and being able to be fluent in African language. It's a plus, because many of his own comrades in the DA are not able, and some of them are not even willing to learn an African language.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just to also point out in his acceptance speech, saying that in the face of adversity, we must find our greatest strength, which is courage. He kept mentioning the word isbindi, that we need to find courage. And I suppose speaking to what you say, Prof, will of course count as some of the characteristics of a leader coming into the KwaZulu-Natal region. Here on SA tonight with Professor Sipho Siya, the political analyst, just of course reflecting back on the official announcement made by the Democratic Alliance's leader John Steenhuisen that Chris Pappas is the KwaZulu-Natal premier candidate ahead of the 2024 general elections.